which is then declared often by the funders themselves and rarely by the startups themselves. And sometimes even that information is very difficult to access. So there's a lot of opacity in the funding landscape generally. I think sometimes by design, but there's indeed an opportunity to start to move the needle in that sense. So what next? Indeed, we want to collaborate further beyond this. Yeah, in our phase 2 of the project, there's a lot of stakeholder engagement where indeed we want to sit with policy actors and explore in what ways the regulatory system, the policy instruments that are being developed to support startups can be refined further. In this case, for the sake of agri-tech, which is kind of a subset of a subset, yeah, because we have millions of startups, and many of them are below the radar, yeah? So what kind of policy instruments work best? And also we want to sit with incubators, accelerators, and continue these discussions, which I know are your bread and butter on a daily basis. Questions around, for example, identifying high potential startups versus those that need capacity to be able to, you know, have a greater impact. So this is kind of a winded answer to the question that you're posing, which I believe goes just beyond Nuvoni, to getting all the stakeholders involved. Yeah. On just one more comment about local ownership. That's a very interesting question to study. I think we all agree that there's a lot of ambiguity in how we define ownership when it comes to startups, particularly agri-tech startups. And this also contributes to the discussion around women entrepreneurs, because our study is on tech, agricultural technologies, which are still dominated by men. Yeah? Maybe because of the tech element, and a lot of them tend to be digital technologies. You know, there were Sokos and the Twiggers, and you know, there's a certain, there's a type of tech that is receiving a lot of funding now, and increasingly there are more women participating in that space, but there's still a glass ceiling, I would say, yeah. So because of that, let's interpret those results from that perspective. And I think this segues to the next conversation where we are really talking about agricultural technologies and how would we define technologies, etc. We are looking at funding that has gone into tech in the agriculture space.
Excellent. Yeah, you want to come in? Yeah.
I would generally just like to comment that when it comes to along the agricultural value chain, I believe that smallholder farmer, creating an intervention at the production level is much more difficult because smallholder farmers are less mechanized, less resourceful, they have less resources. So, majority of the startups that have actually tech interventions have tried to use what the farmers already have, mostly the mobile phones and downloading of apps. So, and therefore it makes sense that majority of the funding goes to that retail, that logistic, that supply chain stage of the value chain as compared to at the production level. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think we can bring this to a close. And perhaps one of the key messages, we work together. How do we ensure that some of those gaps, some of those areas, questions that people have are addressed in the next cycle of the research study? With a particular focus looking at recommendations to say what can be done differently, and maybe also profiling some success stories or indeed some failures to say these are the areas, practical examples where people have failed to break the barrier and what is it that should be done in order to address that situation further. Okay, so with that, let's just put our hands together finally to thank our two ladies for taking us through their presentation. So moving on, I'm now going to invite a panel which is going to be led by Karina, and the panelists can also come up as I'm calling their names. So Karina, you can come up. So it's a panel which is going to be focusing on role of hardware and software technology in food systems innovations. We also have Eric, Wanyoike, Samson, Chris, and Millicent. If they could all come up to the front. I'll now hand over to you, Karina.
Amazing, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. How are we feeling? Strong? Awake? Great. We're lucky, I think, that we got the early morning slot. So we'll make the most out of it. Thank you so much. My name is Karina, and I'm from an organization called Circle Innovation. We're an innovation catalyst based here in Nairobi, working in the region, and have done quite some impactful work with the World Food Programme over the last. And I'm really happy to be here to moderate this panel on technology and the role of technology in agribusiness in Africa today. And I think from our previous speakers, it was really great to hear that there is growing funding actually into agribusinesses in Africa, and also that you explore the technology role in your next report. So I think we'll be looking out for that. And hopefully the panel today can also shed a bit more light maybe on that aspect as well. So what are we going to do or explore today? So we have 4 key objectives that we're going to look at. One is to explore the different instances of how technology could transform agribusinesses, especially with regards to operations and market access in Africa. We want to share on some common challenges that agribusinesses experience in adopting technologies, and also in working with smallholder farmers actually to adopt technologies. We want to dive into data protection, security, lessons learned, what they would share with other agripreneurs and other agribusiness leaders on kind of how to successfully adopt and scale technology. So with that being said, I would like each panelist to briefly introduce themselves and their role here today. And maybe I'll just start with Eric, because you're right here.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name's Eric Wanyoike. I come from and CTO at that company. We've been doing business for around 2 years now. We mainly focus right now on the dairy sector, where we help digitize dairy cooperatives, which are smallholder farmers, to collect their milk, process their transactions, and as the banks say, to make them financial ready. I also I'm also a farmer. I do with bananas in Taveta. I also have tea. I'm a retired educationist, so this is kind of like something I always wanted to do in terms of entrepreneurship in technology in agriculture, and mostly based here in Nairobi, and I mean here in Kenya, and there's great opportunities, great potential here. So thank you.
Good morning, everyone, again. I'm Millicent Okumu, co-founder and CEO of AgriFlex Limited. So at AgriFlex, we work with smallholder farmers and agro-dealers in the rural parts of the farming communities, and we focus on supplying them with certified and affordable farm inputs with keen focus on crop protection. On top of that, we are also introducing the use of drone technology to these smallholder farmers, because in the country currently, the use of drone technology is being utilized, but more to the large-scale farmers. So AgriFlex is introducing this to the smallholder farmers. Previously, I've been with in the agri-tech sector for more than 6 years, working with a company which built its own technology. It was a tech-enabled company focusing on agro-dealers, and they were able to also roll out a new technology to agro-dealers to utilize in their own shops to manage their inventory and do a lot of things. So I'm happy to be here today, and I hope we'll all enjoy the. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Samson. I'm the Frenzy of Tarbiotech from Ethiopia. So we are basically providers of biosolutions. We are working in replacing different chemicals in the manufacturing industry, and also producing biosensors in environmental protection industry, and mainly in the agriculture sector. We are producing biofertilizers and biocontrol agents, bacterial-based biofertilizers and biocontrol agents. So I'm really happy to be here today. Thank you.
I'm the founder, Gene Plus, where we are providing access to critical livestock inputs to the last mile, working through as well as high cost of inputs by trying to design ways of ensuring that access is enhanced through expanding the affordability bracket of many farmers that still struggle with these technologies for the increased productivity. We also have e-extension modules in our delivery of services to bring forth information to farmers that enhance their capacity to be able to utilize these critical technologies.
Super excited to now jump into our discussion. And the first theme that we want to explore is kind of what is the impact of technology on agribusiness operations specifically. And my first question actually goes to Dr. Silali and Eric. So maybe Dr. Silali, you can go first because you just had the mic in your hand. So how do you see digital platforms and farmers from your experience?
Critically, I'll talk about two sides of a smallholder farmer. When you say access to markets, one, for input distribution, smallholder farmers are a critical market for distributors of products, but quite a lot of those distributors or the owners of technology struggle in trying to get to these communities, and designing ways of delivery of these technologies to farmers through using technology has actually proven to be quite critical. And a case in point can be like what we are doing in our module, where we have tried to kind of reduce the kind of knowledge base that a farmer needs to know to access inputs. And we've done that through designing a unified module of ordering of services. And what we've done also, use appropriate technology to address or to reach any farmer across the country, for example, in Kenya. And we designed a module using a USSD platform as an ordering module for farmers. Supply chain they need to go to. And there are many modules I know around that really products where maybe we have virtual markets now where farmers are, the prices, the trends in the market as well. And technology has actually taken that really to be easier than before. Maybe a case in point I can also say where you'd find that some parts of the globe or the country, for example, have a lot of produce, and some parts of the same country actually are in lack. So sharing of that information and knowing where the markets are through platforms or through technology has really been a good format of enabling access to markets.
Eric, from your perspective.
From my perspective, you said most of it is correct. So let me just put...
Thank God.
I think it's in the industry, it's a gap a lot of entrepreneurs have seen. There are a lot of people who know there's a need to link, let's say if it's in pricing. People know farmers, we need to know what the price is. The market needs to know what the price is. But it seems like in Kenya, or where I know, is that the brokers are the ones that determine because of lack of that information. So we know definitely digital platforms in terms of pricing can really help both sides and to help really stabilize pricing. So because there are too many, or there are many people trying to solve this problem, I'm yet to see one that stands out that becomes probably the market leader. So I think investors need to identify which one has the best traction, the one that can be widely adopted, or something like that. in terms, because you find if it's the agrovets, and she also mentioned they dealt with inputs, and most agrovets now will have online platform where they'll sell. And then in Kenya's case, I know in terms of last mile delivery, with the borders and everything, and the G4S, this kind of like proper logistics network, if you know how to look. It's not very formal, but it's informal. But I always say the informal is the way to go in this economy. So also a bit of more work will be needed there, but the opportunities are there, and once these opportunities click, I think it can really transform things on the ground. So we are in the phase of still waiting to see where there will be a clear leader in this, who will be the de factos. There are some like Gigi, it's been there for some time. You can go there and you'll find somebody saying, I have eggs, I have this, this is my location. But there's no place, one real portal. So in what we do, we're trying to also come up with a milk marketplace, because we aggregate a lot of milk. For the last 7 months, we've managed going from about 1,200 kgs, and now we do about 28,000 kgs of milk a day. And most of this goes to the processors, but and the processors account for about 30% of the market. So there's 70% of the market that requires raw milk or pasteurized milk. And we think a digital platform to say we have this amount of milk from these places, because all the traceability is there. So it will be important, it's needed, but I don't think we are there yet. Maybe there are small success stories, but as an industry as a whole, not yet, unless somebody could correct me. Yeah.
Amazing, thank you so much. Samson, from your perspective, and bringing in also maybe the Ethiopian perspective that might be a bit different from Kenya, what role do innovations like biofertilizers and biopesticides play actually in increasing productivity and sustainability for smallholder farmers?
Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, Ethiopia is a bit isolated from this ecosystem. That's where I'm really come to notice when I'm participating in different agribusiness conferences. So I think it's a long way for Ethiopia. But coming to the question, biofertilizers and biopesticides can really be a concrete option in terms of replacing the chemicals that now we are consuming. But still, it's a long way in terms of bringing a more comprehensive and coming to the best product that's possible, because especially the East and Central Africa region has, I would say, the best genetic pool in terms of diversity, in terms of microbial diversity. So we can create a really comprehensive product, comprehensive biofertilizer and biopesticides and in general biocontrol agents. So I think we need to be more involved on those. We need more innovators in that sector. As far as I know, only 2 or 3 startups are working in that space. So the role is huge, of course, because from our product's perspective, we were able to increase productivity by minimum of 21% compared to the chemical fertilizers. And we were also able to reduce the amount of pesticides, herbicides they use. So that has economical benefit and also environmental benefit in terms of ensuring sustainability. So I think we need more work in that regard so that we can see its impact on a bigger scale. Thank you.
Amazing, thank you. Millicent, if we now look a bit at challenges and barriers from your perspective and as an entrepreneur, what are kind of the biggest barriers that you face in adopting new technologies?
Okay, thank you. So for me, from my experience first, the key challenge is the initial cost. So when we talk of an agro-dealer and you're going to deploy a POS to them, you need to give them the gadget. So for them to access that gadget, they need to purchase it. So what we did previously is taking away that cost from the agro-dealer. And currently, I even know of a few companies who have managed to access funding to just take away that initial cost of the gadget they use or the technology. Then the other thing is part of the initial cost of technology. For the drones, the initial cost is you need to have, currently it's said to be between 2 million Kenya shillings and 8 million Kenya shillings to get a good drone to be utilized in agriculture. So currently in the country, no commercial bank is financing that. We are in talks with others because we're working with a partner and we are trying to get funding for that, but they're saying, no, this is a green area for us, so we need to go slowly. They're saying they need data. So when they need data to back what you do, what you need from them, it means we have to go back to the users. So we organize for the drone demonstrations. For you to organize for a drone demonstration, you need to get, for example, permit in Kenya. It takes 3 days to access that permit. So even if you get that permit, that is, you do it, and then you need to take up that initial cost. Then you go do it, and then the farmers are super happy. They are willing, from that one drone demonstration, you're able to get many who are willing to be onboarded, but then now it's during season. We have the large-scale farmers and we have the small-scale farmers. So there's that huge demand, which means anyone who is doing their business right will say, let me go to a large-scale farmer with 200 acres, 300 acres, one person, instead of AgriFlex and their partner where I am going to get 15 farmers, 50 acres. So that, again, is bringing the challenge. The other thing is access to funding. We've just seen a report here whereby the funding that is going to precision agriculture is number 3 from the very last. So again, it means everyone is not ready to get their money out there, and that is bringing the challenge. When you talk of data privacy, farmers are really, they're really afraid when you tell them that we want to get your data, because I've told you of an example whereby we have a bank which is willing to at least support us on capacity building so that we can be able to access this thing. Then you go to the farmers to get that data because they also want to see the impact. So during the drone demonstration, you see that clearly this thing is able to reduce the cost by over 70%, cost of input, cost of labor, and also time. But then the kind of questions you ask them in that survey, what have you been using before and what is the cost? So for them to be able to tell you the exact cost is becoming a challenge because they feel like, I think you're going to fundraise with my information and you're not going to come back and give me this money. So that is also becoming a challenge. So some of these things, again, from the report we've heard that mobile apps is the main thing we use when we want to access the smallholder farmers and agro-dealers. Most of them, the technical skills, they have the mobile app, but they can only go as far as WhatsApp. They go to Facebook. Something else they can't do. So you really need, even if you have that mobile app, you need people on the ground. You need a lot of training for them, and you need people who can be able to even support them. Other than that, then you also need to have, we spoke of USSD. So if you are accessing these smallholder farmers, again, that is also a challenge which we need to figure out how to work with. You don't go to them with a solution that doesn't provide them with a USSD alternative. That is going to bring a problem. Lastly, I will mention again the infrastructure challenges, and by infrastructure, I will talk of connectivity issues. When you say you want to bring technology to the rural parts where we are working with these farmers, so the internet connectivity is a challenge there, and other than the internet connectivity, even the logistics. So you even have your drone and you're going to the field. How are you going to access these farms? So that's also a challenge which we are dealing with, which if we are able to, if we are focusing as a nation, as a country, and as a continent that we want to really incorporate technology in agriculture, then these are some of the challenges which we really have to focus on how to solve. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Maybe opening up the floor to everyone, from your perspective and in your businesses, where does access to funding and resources pose kind of the biggest challenges to the adoption of technology in your business, but also then with the other kind of agro-vets or agribusinesses, smallholder farmers that you work with? And I think Millicent already touched up on a couple of points, but I'm sure all of you are facing also others.
Yeah, so I have learned that, throughout the years, I have learned that the agriculture sector is the most expensive in terms of doing adaptation to new technologies, because you have to work with farmers and you have to go there, you have to work with government officials, you have to go through the extension system and everything. So it's that space where you need more funding on, because providing trainings for farmers, providing trainings for experts, and then that doesn't come up with whatever you were desiring to have at the end of those projects. So you almost every time we were doing the trainings again and again, like 2-3 times every year. So I think that's where you need more funds on, but also from our perspective, the acquiring of whenever you're trying to scale up, you acquiring of new infrastructure, new facilities, and also purchasing new equipment. Also, it's a huge investment, because especially the bioprocessing industry is more of similar to the medical industry. So we are utilizing very expensive and also recent technologies. So from our perspective, that's where we need to get more funding on. But also, I think for the other agri businesses, it's more on the adaptation process, working with smallholder farmers. The key points are.
Dr. Sirali, I can see.
Yes, I thought I can also contribute. There are quite a number of things that happen within the agri sector as well, and one thing that I've realized is if you're in the agribusiness sector, one is identifying the right or aligned financier, because quite a lot of funds out there have really not been in agriculture, and especially agriculture in Africa, which is quite fragmented and disaggregated, where you're talking about people who are not seen to be really a good market for an agribusiness. And this smallholder business has, in Africa, most of you guys in the room would know that it has been an NGO space mainly, and a space where basically people have not really seen it as a base for future thriving agriculture. So with that, then it takes you a lot of time to convince people that this is a market that I've identified and I would want to work in that space. So that alone is a hindrance to getting finance. And again, now beyond that, you find that people also want to see traction in new ideas, new innovations. And traction also becomes a very difficult thing, especially if you didn't have enough good seed money to start the business. So like the journey or the ladder towards getting finance in working with the smallholder agricultural space then becomes very, very complicated. And maybe a third point that I also look at is in agri-space, you also realize that, for example, this part of Africa where farmers still have a very big gap on information. And extension, when you think about extension, you think about information sharing. Well, given the NGO space, the government support systems, it's been seen to be a freebie. So it has to be done at no cost for the farmer. So it means that as an entrepreneur, to be able to start running. So basically, and I like that we have such kind of sessions to discuss this and find solutions that are longer term, and find also partners who are in it with a longer term incentives program, like the entrepreneurs, to be the ones to implement such kind of longer term sustainable solutions.
If we dive now a bit deeper into challenges specifically to adopting technologies, Eric, from your experience, what concerns do agribusinesses have with regards to data protection, data security? What happens with their data? I think Millicent already mentioned, if I share this data, then you go fundraise and you never come back. So clearly there's some trust issues and challenges.
Definitely there's a lot of trust issues. I'll just talk from our perspective. I think within the contracts we have is the cooperative that we support with technology owns the data. And we really have to have some trainings and trainings with them to show them exactly how we store their data, how we collect their data, and also within Kenya there's a Data Protection Act. So we have to get also, we are certified by them. So we also show them that we have the certification to show that our internal processes are in line. Then it also boils down to our internal ethics at the end of the day. Because a lot of organizations want this type of data. So I would say maybe recently we had to do some impact, I'll give an example. We had to do an impact assessment. And we had to share data of maybe about 8 different cooperatives, a sample of 200 farmers by each cooperative, and we had to write a letter to the cooperative board explaining to them this is what's going to happen, get their approval, had to get the approval of the farmer first before even that impact assessment had to be done. So different people will face different challenges. A lot of there's so much, so many moving parts when an entrepreneur is doing things. So if they don't have a strong IT support team or CTO, and they're doing everything on their own, they'll miss a lot of these things. A lot of them will insecurely put their data out there to be gotten from their website or something like that. One thing maybe, I don't know if you people have realized, is with the messaging, if you're using SMSs to communicate from a short code, you find a lot of farmers have blocked marketing SMSs. So it seems like a lot of their information has been gathered, and they're getting these messages from people they don't know, marketing things that they don't know. So in the rural areas, a lot of people have blocked actually a lot of those marketing SMSs. That's one thing we realized. So for them to get their statements, we have to let them unblock for this particular shortcode and stuff like that. So those are the kind of challenges that I've seen so far, yeah.
Super interesting. So staying a little bit with the trust, and also, I guess, with the overload maybe of marketing messages, of information, of scams, I think, that also end up in our text messages. Millicent, from your perspective, how do you ensure as a business owner that the technology solutions that you provide are actually user-friendly and actually can be used also by the farmers you're serving, given that there is varying levels of digital literacy? And I think Samson also said that there is the need for training, there is the need for awareness. So how do you bridge that so people don't actually block your marketing messages and then...
So I think what we can do, and what we've also tried to do in the past, is there's a need for a thorough research. Before you start developing something for these smallholder farmers, do you even understand the problem? Do you even understand the solution they want for their problem? Because they might be having a problem with a different kind of solution they have, and from these key challenges, these are their proposed solutions. You can refine, but these are their proposed solutions. So make sure that you do thorough research. After doing that thorough research, while you are developing your technology, ensure that you have continuous feedback channel with these farmers. Once you get this feedback, don't just get feedback and then you don't act on it, because funny enough, they follow up. We gave you feedback on this, you did not do anything. So why are you coming back to us again? So when they give you feedback, please ensure that you are following up and then ensuring that everything is done as per what they have indicated to you. Something else is when you go to the field, because Safaricom, they had mentioned that when they were developing, when they were starting up, they went down there and then they spoke to these you on phone, WhatsApp. They can't even get you for a good time. So when you're providing a solution to them, technology-wise, ensure that there is an offline capability. With the offline capability, even if it's an agro-dealer, they are getting to their outlet, they are able to do their inventory and everything, they are processing all their sales. They can do that while offline. And as soon as they are online, they are able to, everything is able to sync. That is going to be able to help you with these farmers. Something else, when they're talking of cost. So how do you ensure that this cost is also incorporated, because everyone is running away from funding? And I think I'll talk about this and also maybe take you back to how do we also ensure that we are providing solutions, not just providing issues and not solutions. There's the bit of de-risking the funding. There was the issue of we are potentially thinking that the reason why female founders don't get funding enough is because they don't also have collateral. Why don't we have people coming up to de-risk this? I know IFC is trying to do something with some banks whereby they are de-risking funding for female founders and youth and the marginalized categories. So if you're providing a solution for smallholder farmers, for the people in the rural areas, ensure that someone is able to back your story, because nowadays they also want a very good story. They are able to back this story and ensure that they take away that initial cost from the potential users, and this is also going to be able to really, really help you while rolling out your technology. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So another important aspect when we talk about technology innovation is, of course, intellectual property. So Samson, based on your experience, how do you actually ensure, what are some of the best practices to actually ensure that intellectual property is properly, I guess, confirmed and protected?
Yeah, I think it's important to protect your products and your technologies, but I believe the time to protect your products with patents and things like that is over because of internet and the whole thing. We do patents because people always ask about, do you have patents and things like that, so we patented our products. But I will mention three main things to protect your products. The first thing is to continuously improve your products so that competitors don't match whatever products you have. And the next thing is to build reputation with your customers. And I believe the last thing is, so that's what we are actually currently doing. We are trying to scale as fast as possible, and not only in Ethiopia, but also in Kenya and Rwanda, and also continuously improving our products and improving the number of products that we have currently. Yeah, thank you.
Dr. Silali, anything to add?
I think he mentioned quite a lot, and I think I like his idea of doing it because people want. But I think I still believe that trademarking and registering all these intellectual property can actually still go a long way, as much as you are continuously iterating and changing the solution. But prior to that, also the order of secrecy is always there, like trying to kind of entice them to come and join you on the path. And you end up actually sharing a lot of information to actually make them understand your solution. So just basic documentation, like even NDS and non-disclosures, just don't take them for granted. I know at times they seem not to be enforceable, but they kind of guide you in ways that suppose something happens, you can actually have a fallback plan for such kind of events. So that's my contribution, I think.
Amazing. Great. So before we open up the floor to the audience, so please already brainstorm questions, yeah? You'll be there soon. Two open last questions on success stories and lessons learned to the panel, and everybody can chip in. So from your experiences, what are the key lessons learned for you to effectively integrate technology into your practices as an agribusiness?
For us, it's really understanding if there was a problem we're going to go solve. Technology is needed, so we had to figure out a way of getting them to use the technology, identifying the people to use the technology. So really understanding the lay of the ground, it's bought for all our operations, from milk collections, from advance payments, everything. And then we used an agent model where there's just the person who collects the milk is the point of contact with the farmer. So we made that the point of contact for legalities in the back end. So in terms of the accounting and everything is all abstracted behind using automation and things like that, and then giving them simple PDF reports on WhatsApp. So really understanding that on the ground, we adapted our technology to do that. Continuously getting feedback. Like we always say, we always wanted to know call me with bad news. because I don't want to hear what's good. I want to hear what's bad. And then from the bad news is when now you continuously improve on your product. There have been many. I think those are the only two that are coming to mind. Maybe as more come in, yeah.
Yes, thank you. So for me, from my own experience, I'll say pivoting. It's like pivoting when you're a startup is your second nature. You keep on pivoting a lot because you get feedback from farmers and then be able to find a balance. Because you might have 20 customers telling you this works perfectly for us, but the other 20 are telling you this doesn't work for us. So how do you ensure that you satisfy both? Find a balance between the two. Then other than finding, getting that feedback from the customers, we are also fundraising. So you speak to a lot of potential investors, you get applications, and then you get into some of these accelerators, then we get feedback. So you'll always be getting feedback about your product. So there's the feedback from the customers, then there's the feedback from the potential financials. So, and then some of them are crazy. Then you just have to go back and sit down with your team, and then you decide, what are we going to do here? Find a balance, because some will just tell you outright, stop solving that problem. Someone else is already solving that problem in a very good way, and we've already financed them. Please come and join them or do something differently. So for a startup, having done this before and also continuously doing this and improving, be very ready to take feedback and take nothing personally. It's just business. Customers, potential investors, and even entrepreneurs, because we meet a lot of entrepreneurs. I was in the accelerator with E4 Impact. We were 10 different entrepreneurs in the agribusiness sector, solving different problems. So you can be able to borrow things from different people to ensure that you're able to improve your solution. So always be open-minded. That is always going to be able to help us, because even all these big giants now, they were in the journey and they kept on pivoting and improving, Thank you.
Yeah, I think what they have said also applied to our business. One thing I would say is finding the most efficient way to reach out to the farmers, because we thought going directly to the farmers was the best way to reach out to the farmers and influence them to use our products, but we found that the best way was to go through the agricultural experts who work with them, and we find that that's the most influential way. So I think
maybe building up on that point, Samson, sorry, Dr. Silali, quickly. How do all of you measure the impact that technology adoption actually plays in increasing your profitability, increasing your efficiency, increasing your productivity?
Company called Click in the UK. So we can as agricultural experts, because they work with a minimum of 400, 500 farmers. So we always try to measure the amount that we spend to acquire a single customer, and from that we take yeah, that's how we always improve the way we reach the farmers.
On my part, I think as well, there's quite a lot that has already been spoken about the topic. What we've come to learn as we grow is that it is one technology. It's only that they don't know which one is available and which one works. So the moment you're able to break that barrier to kind of give them an assurance of whatever you have and how it works, and more so that it does not also breach their normal cultural, religious issues, related issues, then you easily would be able to get a good market. And to say really that smallholder farmers in Africa is a major frontier for technology adoption. It might not be as complex, but if you design an appropriate technology to apply to these communities, it actually is easier when you get your messages packaged well. But also to be as like an entrepreneur, also lessons along the way is to say that specializing and opening up, specializing in your area of proficiency probably is the best way to go, and allow for co-creations or alignment with other enterprises in the market to be able to give more value. like on this platform, I work with Space AI on something that we find that they are collecting milk and we are helping farmers produce milk. So for that market, I don't really need to be in his space, but I can actually help his business grow. So also just finding collaborations, co-creating, and finding, like, we find ourselves most of the times in the market chasing the same farmer with different solutions. Why can't we just go there with a package that helps people to be able to get maximum value from the services that we provide? But beyond that as well is to say, Africa as it is a virgin land for agriculture. There's a lot that can be done. There's a lot that can be implemented through technology, through supporting young entrepreneurs, through getting ideas that are more sustainable in local areas that would actually cultivate these smallholder farmers. On the side of data and how we capture data, again, we're actually on a platform talking about technology. How do we make it part of the journey so that people use technology appropriately to help their enterprises grow? And I want to talk about that a bit more passionately because I think there's a lot of dilution as well. The technology has very good sides. But like, for example, if today you went to an app store on Google and search for agri-tech related applications, there are thousands. Then how do a farmer or a client really pick which one works? And I think that is where most people have really found a reason to work together. And collaboration really is the future because we cannot push these thousands of applications to people and think that they'll choose which one. We confuse them more than we actually be solution providers.
Amazing, thank you. I'll end here. Sorry, I know we could talk about this so much more, but I want to open up the floor for any questions from the audience. I'm not sure if there's somebody helping with the mic. Yeah, perfect. I think there's a question here from Joy, and then there's a question in the back as well.
Can I go? Maybe
15 more minutes. So
this question goes to Millicent. I've heard you talk a lot about the system that you use for farmers to get physical products. How about services? If I need a tractor, if I need a drone, is there an app that I can go to and know where to get the tractor to plow or to spray or to harvest my crop?
Thank you. So for currently what we've done is we rolled out a mobile app and we got feedback from our customers. So we are in the process of improving that. So currently the only way someone is able to get the same services through us is through our website and also through our social media pages. Other than that, we have our sales agents who are in the field who always go around in these areas. So for people who are not in the areas where we are seriously focused on, our website will be all our social media pages as we refine and roll out fully the mobile app aspect. Thank you.
I think we're going to collect a couple of questions. So we have Joy, and then the gentleman in the back, and then the gentleman here, and then, so you can take notes if they're addressed to you.
Okay, thank you, Karina, and thank you to the panelists for that very interactive session. So my question will touch a little bit on the policy side from something that Eric, you mentioned, and just tying back to, I think, Faust's presentation from yesterday, looking at, policy is a key area that we want to provide recommendations from this summit to bring policy, close the gap between policy and practice. So you had mentioned that you're certified on the data protection policy from Kenya's side. So just to get a bit of your experience, what was the process in getting that certification? Was it costly in a time or financial perspective? And then do you feel it added any strategic value to your business? Or it was purely, compliance oriented, or maybe towards your customers? Does it provide a benefit to them knowing that you're compliant in terms of that data protection? And then maybe the last question can be to the broader panel in terms of, are there any other policy recommendations you'd propose for consideration to enhance, adoption of technologies into agribusiness? So thank you.
Joy. The gentleman in the back.
Yeah, thanks to the panel. I think I have one question and just one comment. So my question is, especially for those of you who have app-related solutions, where you really have to engage with smallholder farmers to get data, how do we actually handle data privacy issues? Because this is farmer data, and I think, for example, in Kenya, I think the custodian of farmer data is KALRO. I don't know whether everybody's aware of that. So how do we handle that? And what improvements can we get to be able to harmonize that? Because if everyone goes to farmer and engage and get data, I work a lot in the farmer space on research side of things. And for us, we work a lot with KALRO. All our data is mirrored on the KALRO server. So that's how we ensure that, we comply. So can you address that? And the other one is more of a comment, and really to emphasize what Silali said about thousands of apps on related issues. And I think that's the basis of this KALRO custodian database basis. Because if you have so many solutions and we are targeting the same farmer, and we go to the same farmer with different solutions, I am a smallholder farmer apart from the research I do. I do smallholder dairy. I have like 4 apps on my farm. I have Digica, I have Fuga, I have, all these things. And I struggle. I have farm care to address my weather issues. It's really a nightmare for farmers, and it can really undermine the good work that you guys are doing. So how do we foster that collaboration? Yeah, and I think it begins with data sharing and having central databases. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now the gentleman here, and then we'll take one more, and then we'll answer, and then we're out of time.
Okay. Thank you very much. I want to answer in French. Mr. Leona can translate it. D'une capacité un peu plus grande. Alors, nous travaillons dans un modèle de cluster avec 300 groupements de riziculteurs. Et là, au total, nous avons 4500 riziculteurs. Nous faisons face à un grand défi. Donc 4500 riziculteurs avec lesquels nous travaillons. Alors nous aimerions avoir une idée quelle serait la meilleure technologie pour les accompagner dans l'accompagnement au niveau de la production et au niveau du rachat de la récolte. Parce que le riz paddy qui est produit au champ, nous le rachetons au niveau de l'usine pour le transformer et le commercialiser. Donc le défi, c'est au niveau de cet accompagnement. Comment est-ce qu'on peut collecter ces données? Comment est-ce qu'on peut les exploiter? Quels sont les logiciels les plus adaptés? Parce que actuellement, nous essayons avec nous utilisons la plateforme WhatsApp pour communiquer, mais maintenant, on aimerait avoir une technologie plus appropriée pour les accompagner dans la production, dans le financement en fait de leur compte d'exploitation, et puis voir au niveau de la mécanisation également, nous voudrions mettre en place des équipements pour améliorer au niveau de la production. La récolte, utiliser les machines, et au niveau de la production en général. Donc voilà, merci.
Hello, let me try to translate. It was quite long. Yeah, he's basically saying that he run a rice agricultural plant in Cameroon, he worked with around 4,500 small farmers. And he would like to know what is the best technology to actually manage it, because at the currently they only use WhatsApp. I don't know how you, yeah, WhatsApp, yeah. And he will need to have help in as far as technology is concerned to enhance the production, the finance, and the machine in order to optimize the production. How does he use the technology to actually collect data? Yeah, to create a sound database for his 4,500 farmers.
The last question we have from Mr. Finn, and then we unfortunately have to stop the questions, have the panelists answer, and then finish.
Okay, thank you. So very briefly, my issue has to do with okay, so obviously technology has a very important role in transforming food systems. And if we look at the drivers of food systems transformation, science and innovation and the associated technologies really remain one of the key drivers. Now, what I want to find out is whether there is any work from any of the partners here, specifically on technology assessment, which looks at the impact of the adoption of specific technologies in the respective or different value chains and in different countries, the impact. So if you want to promote the adoption of whether hardware or software technologies, it's important to know what impact those technologies have on different actors, stakeholders in the value chain. So I'd like to find out whether any of our stakeholders, partners here focus on technology assessment. Thank you.
Amazing, thank you so much. Okay, we had the question on policy. Who wants to go for the policy question?
It was kind of directed towards...
Eric, go ahead.
In terms of, I'll give an example. The reason why we did the data protection was beginning of last year, and it was kind of things we thought, because the model was going to be a SaaS model of how we're going to implement it. We'll have all of these farmers in one database, we'll manage it for them and stuff like that. So we got it. But when we went to the ground, maybe after the first pilot, we realized that it's still relevant. We realized that we need to keep cooperative data in the cooperative's hands, so that we're not really responsible for that. All we'll do is just manage the infrastructure for them and support them in terms of technology. So whether we got it or not wouldn't really matter, because internally, and one of my beliefs was, if you can get the farmer to trust you, then the farmer will encourage. So if there's a breach in the data, the telephone numbers, the addresses, their names, their IDs, the policies, I think should be there for all of us. And that should be a must. Capacity in looking into this thing is not there. We don't have that much capacity, but it's growing. You know, we have to always find when there's a new software developer, I always encourage them, always talk. That's why we're here at E4, have this relationship for E4 Impact. Any entrepreneurs, talk to them, encourage them, help them. I think that's on policy, my part. I hope I've answered quite a bit. Thank you.
I think I'll go next, and as part of the policies, I'll go straight to the drone technology. So in the country, it's also something which is pretty new. So when I talk of when we want to go to spray a farm, we work with smallholder farmers, and sometimes when it rains or when something has attacked your crop, they always want faster action. But then if you have to use the drones, then you have to get a permit, and the permit has to get the minimum 3 days. So that is also something we are working on with our partners and also the regulators, that is the government, to ensure that we can be able to bring down that time, because if someone has to wait for 3 days, even if the cost is going to be down, you will find that maybe they no longer have crops on their farm. So they will say, let me just go the manual way and incur the extra cost. So the following up on the policy side with the drone technology, with the regulators, and the other challenge is the regulators are not fully equipped to regulate. So they also rely on our implementing partners to get the privacy. What we do is, working with third-party partners, we have to be very strict. We ensure that once we say that we are the data owners and we are the custodians of the smallholder farmers' data, then when we are sharing that data with our implementing partners, because it also starts with trust and what you're telling them. We are working with these partners and this is what we're going to use your data for. So we really have to specify, this is the use case scenario for your data, and when we are sharing with our implementing partners, the data has to be anonymized. It can't go and in a manner that they are able to identify that this is Millicent Okumu, the smallholder farmer in Molo or in Nakuru. So that we do very well. And then also on our end, even on the back end, the person who is handling that data is one who is certified, and just one person. We don't get to, everyone else doesn't get to know what is going on in different areas. So if you're focusing on one area, you just do that one area. But one person who has central information is the person who is certified, and this data is not accessible to any other person. On collaboration, when we heard about the report that was just, the preliminary report that was just released, the issue is we are very mean in quotes with data, the stakeholders within here or the competitors out there. So we are going to the same smallholder farmer. I am going to do inputs. He is going to provide something else. We are all going to the same person. We need the same data. But then I went there first and I have the data. He is coming second, but I am not willing to give out that data. So what we need to do to collaborate is, I don't know if there's a way through you who is working with CalRO or the government where we can have some data centralized somewhere such that the other guys or the other partners who want to access this data can access this data through you. I am aware we had a project we did before and we didn't even go to get farmer data from elsewhere. We went straight to CalRO and we had over 2 million data for farmers, and we were able to utilize that very well as per the regulations, and then we were able to complete the project. So collaboration is very key. I don't know what we need to do to ourselves to run away from being mean with the data that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Millicent. The last questions, very briefly, on the database and the impact assessment for technology impact. How do you assess and how do you build the case for investors to invest in technology, actually? Where's the proof?
I think I can go first. Because I feel like this is the only question that I it's not like we're not like an external company. Our main job is not assessing impact, but we do our impact assessment with the help of other companies. So we have our first impact assessment for the last 3 years in October 3. So we were able to increase incomes of smallholder farmers by 200. That's the impact that you are having, both for to showcase for it for investors and also to see the value what you are doing. And because I mean, sometimes you feel like you ask yourself, is it worth it? Because for me, I'm like spending all day and whole night, probably sleeping 2-3 hours a day. So I have to know that, is it worth it doing this? So that's why we basically do the impact assessment with the help of our partner companies.
Yes, as well, I just wanted to respond to the last question. Actually, how to be sustainable. You have to track whatever you're doing. And our part, we are in livestock genetics and more so on the animal seed side. And this that has been really gray in Africa. And what we are doing is deliberately also going back to track impact. And among those things that we have on our shelf is trying to adopt to more tropical related genetics in the future as we go. At very day, to get to understand what works where and which, like for example, because he's been a very good compatriot on me with us, certain technologies won't work very well in certain regions because of other dynamics. And this can be disease, this can be heat, this can be pastures, and all that. So aligning at now and in the future is a path that we're doing deliberately and using our data to actually inform that kind of information for the future, implement new technologies in our space.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much to the panelists. I think we went very deep into the topic, starting with how technology can really improve market access, access to inputs, how there is a need for regulation around data security and protection, but also a huge opportunity actually for collaboration, for consolidation and working together, and for sure a huge need also to work with policymakers to streamline some of the policies. And lastly, of course, to build the case, for technology by showing how it's really changing farmers' lives. So thank you so much with that.
Oh, okay, you must take a picture. So, yeah, you have to take a picture. You must pose for a picture. Where is the photographer? Okay. So you just reminded me, talking about technology. I ran a workshop on livestock production some time back. And during the sessions, they were talking of using AI to improve breed production. And I thought to myself, hang on, is AI that pervasive that is now even being used in livestock production? Little did I know that they were referring to artificial insemination. That's AI, yeah? Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well done. So why don't we stand up? We've been sitting for a while. Let's just stand up and stretch a little bit, yeah? Okay, so let's just stand. Make sure there's space where you are standing. All right, so, okay, let's start by just stepping where you are, just step, and swing the arms, yeah, swing the arms, okay, all right, so let's move. All right, so let's just take our seats as we now go through our next session. And I'm going to invite George to brief us about the breakaway sessions.
I'm not sure who got my photo there. But I will make that post-workshop activity to correct the image right there. Anyway, my role here today is just to give you an overview of the session that we're going into, and I sit between you and the coffee out there, so I will not take a lot of time. So the next session, as we can see from the screen, is integrating sustainable and climate-smart agricultural practices into agribusiness models. And the other parallel session is policy frameworks for an enabling environment. So we always save the best for last, isn't it? because these are the two big issues that we have to look at. It will retain the sort of technical depth that we have been having, and I think everybody has been very impressed with the kind of discussions we've had, so that's what we hope as going into these sessions we will be doing. So let me just give you a brief overview of the expectations of this. So on the one part, the expectation or the crafting of the session is really to look at sustainability and what is the understanding, because as we had yesterday, I think there was a question around what does sustainability imply for you. So we're going to look at that in the one session. And the second bit that the moderator wants to get from that session is what are the cost imperatives of these sustainable practices? What does that mean for these ventures? And what strategies do they put in place to ensure that these practices take root? The third part is, in more recent times, I'm sure all of you have heard about ESG, or environmental and social governance, as a framework to evaluate how well organizations address those issues. So the issues of risk, investment decisions, stakeholder expectations, and everybody is asking you, where is your ESG report? Where is your, we've moved on from. So I think the moderator would like to see what the imperatives are on businesses in this regard. This session is being moderated by David. So he will be facilitating, or rather moderating, that bit. The second breakout session, and there's a bet on those two breakout sessions, so I hope I win the bet, but I'll tell you the backstory to that. The policy and regulatory framework to support agribusiness innovation. This track is being moderated by Catherine, who's here. And policy frameworks for an enabling environment. And let me just give you a broad observations, the 2063 MDGs. But we'll look at enabling policy from the participants. Catherine, some success on that panel. So each of the moderators, of course, will guide the panelists in session on how they will conduct. At this point in time, I'd like to see by a show of hands, one, given it's up, who would go on to go and be part of the policy and regulatory frameworks to support agribusiness innovation. By a show of hands. By a show of hands. Okay, that means we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No more. No. Yet we have the panelists, but okay, so we have 7. And I will designate all my team to that. So they have no choice in the matter. They will all go to that. So we'll make about a crowd of 15. Yes, and those who need interpretation by default will stay in this room, right? So policy goes out. We'll show you into which room. I'll just for me and Catherine, and we'll show you it's right out on the corner. And David, who won the bet? No, remember we had said which will be the bigger group. We had that bet with Isabella on Sunday. Okay, so we are having a fire chat on that side. Anyway, that means by default the other team remains in this room. So I think back to you, Daniel, for any coffee announcements or any other thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, George. So just to repeat, the French-speaking colleagues who need interpretation will remain here. All right, so the sustainable and climate-smart agriculture practices will be in this room. Then the other room, we're going to show you where you will be meeting. So we will now take a 15 minutes break for tea, coffee, and then soon after that you go straight into your groups. Then we will meet after the working groups, we have lunch at 1:30. So we have about 1.5 hours for the group discussion. If you conclude before, that means you have a longer lunch. Maybe that's an incentive. So lunch 1:30 to 2:30. 2:30, we then meet here for the presentations from the group. So the rapporteurs must be ready by 2:30. We'll then have quick presentations from the groups, discussion, and then we go into the final stages of our summit. Thank you so much. So tea, coffee, and juices for another 15 minutes. Thank you.